Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charles White, and I have never been more proud to serve as president of Salisbury University. I want to start by thanking the students, faculty, staff, parents, and all members of our SU community for your patience and understanding as we navigate this crisis. I want to especially thank our faculty and staff for the way that they have come together and worked to continue our operations and to support our students. The situation with COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, is evolving very rapidly. But please know that every decision that we make is in abundance of caution and with the intention of keeping our community safe. I've been in daily communication with the University System of Maryland leadership and with the other presidents in the state. We have been in frequent contact with the staff from the governor's office and leadership from the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Our emergency management team has also been in regular communication with teams from the city of Salisbury and Wacomico County. We are committed to working with our partners during these trying times. I have worked with our staff, and we have taken steps to care for our students who may be dealing with food insecurity. We are going to make sure that they are fed. We have also taken steps to make sure that those students who either are homeless or dealing with housing insecurity have a place to stay. The state's Department of Management and Budget continues to issue guidance for our employees as it relates to our exempt, non-exempt, and hourly employees and contingent employees, and we are communicating that information out to our campus. I know you have lots of questions, and you have sent lots of questions to our email address, so we're going to try to answer as many of those questions as I can. And you're going to hear from the experts on this. You're going to hear from Dr. Mark Frana, a professor of biological sciences and virologist. We have Dr. Lillian Odera here, the director of our counseling services. We have Dave Gutowski here, the director of housing and residence life, and Vicki Lenz, the director of student health services. They are each going to answer questions in turn. If you have additional questions, I encourage you to email them to our address, stayinformed@salisbury.edu. Please continue to monitor updates on SU's website at salisbury.edu/coronavirus. We are keeping that site updated with specific information related to instruction, resources, and new and specific information for faculty, staff, and students. At this time, I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Frana.
Thank you, Dr. White. My name is Mark Frana. I'm a professor in the Department of Biological Sciences here at Salisbury University. A little bit about my background. I have a PhD in microbiology with an emphasis in the area of virology. Early on in my career, I worked with coronaviruses prior to the time of the big, well-known human pathogen SARS, but I do have a fair amount of experience with these viruses. At the time I was working with these viruses, we were aware of the fact that there were several animal coronaviruses that are in our environment, and we were also aware of at least a couple human coronaviruses that are responsible or were responsible and continue to be responsible for cases of the mild cold. We know that approximately 20% of common cold is caused by coronaviruses. The virus we're talking about today, of course, is not just causing the common cold. Obviously, mortalities are associated with this and of high concern. One of the questions that I got concerning the virus or the status if you get the disease is, can you contract COVID-19 twice? Will we have immunity after we recover? And the probable answer to that is yes. all of the indications based upon the data that we have with other viruses, other coronaviruses, would imply that once someone has been infected with the virus and recovers, they should have immunity against the virus. We know that this is the case with animals, and we also know that this is the case with those mild coronaviruses, those human coronaviruses that cause the common cold. Once someone is infected with those viruses, they do have immunity against the virus. So we expect that the same thing will happen with COVID-19. Now, this is not the same as the flu virus. You're all aware of the fact that with influenza, we have to take a vaccine every year, and that's because this is a virus that mutates. Influenza is a virus that mutates rapidly. It is true that coronaviruses can mutate, but they do not mutate at nearly the rate that the flu viruses do. So to basically answer the question, if someone were to contract the coronavirus and recover, they should have immunity against that virus from getting it again. Will this be lifelong immunity? It is too early to tell, but they should have immunity for an extended period of time. One of the other questions dealt with, will they develop a vaccine? And I'm confident that they will. We're aware of the fact that many labs around the country, around the world, federal, private labs are working on the development of a vaccine. And we also know that virologists have successfully created vaccines against several of the animal coronaviruses. Some of the animal coronaviruses are of agricultural interest or concern in terms of harming animals. One of them on the eastern shore of Maryland, there's an infectious bronchitis virus that the poultry industry has to deal with, but they have a vaccine against that particular virus. So we do expect to see a vaccine against COVID-19. The whole question, though, of course, is how long will that take? And I know that in the news media we've gotten different reports about how long that might take. I think the most estimate that would give us the shortest timeline would be probably in the range of 1.5 years. And that is a timeline that is much faster than is typically used or required for the development of other vaccines. When a vaccine is developed, they have to do preclinical trials, which means that they have to test the vaccine in a laboratory to see whether or not it is building an immune response in animals. Then they would move on to phase 1 trials, where they would test the vaccine in a small population of individuals, of humans, to test for its safety. Phase 2 would involve a larger cohort of volunteers that would be exposed to the vaccine. And again, you're testing for, does this vaccine work to protect individuals against the virus? How strong is the immunity that the individual is building in response to the vaccine? And then in phase 3, they continue with a much larger population of volunteers where they give them the vaccine and they actually monitor, is this working in the general population? Are we decreasing the number of infected individuals because of the vaccine? And is it safe? Those considerations of safety are primary. They do not want to release a vaccine that would potentially cause other harm to individuals. So this is an intensive and long process. In the development of a routine vaccine, it takes approximately 2 to 5 years or even longer to go through that process. I know that the federal government is talking about streamlining some of these processes. I've heard recently that they may skip the preclinical trials, and once they have a vaccine, they may begin testing in a very small population of individuals. But I know that the federal government is also consulting with ethicists to determine whether or not how far or how much can they cut the corners on trying to get this vaccine out to the population as soon as possible. Once it has passed all of those phases and has been approved, it then has to be mass produced. And that is not a trivial matter either. So the mass production of the vaccine would take time as well in order to provide enough vaccine for the population in general. The final question I received was, what is my opinion in terms of, is this going to get worse or better? And I would have to take the lead of Dr. Fauci, who leads this task force in terms of his scientific expertise. And on the news, you've probably heard him give interviews, and of course the indication that at least in the short term, it's going to get worse. It's clear that in the United States, the number of cases will continue to increase and may increase rather dramatically, thus all of the precautions that we are taking. One of the questions that remains unanswered relative to this particular virus that might impact this is seasonality. We know that with other respiratory coronaviruses, there is seasonality associated with many viruses, including the flu, including many of the cold viruses, where they are much more severe and in terms of transmission, or they're more easily transmitted in colder weather, in drier weather, and that during the summer months, the number of those cases tend to decline. We still don't know whether or not that's going to happen with this particular virus. They're hoping that that's the case, but with this virus, there are no guarantees. I should say that even if the numbers do decline over the summer, I would be remiss if I didn't say that there will still be cases of this disease through the summer, and there is perhaps a possibility that it will increase again in the fall or the winter, assuming that we don't have a vaccine by that point, and it would be unlikely that we would have a vaccine that soon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lillian Odera. I am a licensed psychologist here at Salisbury University. I'm the director of the Counseling Center here at Salisbury University, and I want to speak to the mental health perspective as far as how we are addressing this global health crisis. And the first thing I want to talk about is how we are responding from a psychological standpoint to this crisis. I am mindful that this is new territory for us as a university, for us as a nation, and so it is actually normal to have some reactions you may have to this experience. It's perfectly okay to be afraid and to be worried about your own health status, the health status of your family, the health status of your friends, and for our students, you know, your friends, your roommates, and people who you're close to. And also being mindful that our students who may be away from home and have not made it home yet, you're worried about your family. And are you going to get home? How is everybody doing, depending on the status of your family? And that may directly impact your functioning in the sense that you may find yourself having trouble sleeping. You may find yourself sleeping a whole lot, or you sleep and you wake up, or you actually cannot fall asleep. It's very common for you to wake up maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't get yourself back to sleep. That's a normal reaction to something that you feel like is posing a risk to your well-being. Some of us may actually experience difficulty eating. You may have a loss of appetite or an increase in appetite, just things that you don't normally have as you're functioning. You may have worsening of your physical health or your mental health. I'm mindful that we do have individuals in our community who may already have pre-existing mental health conditions. You may be dealing with anxiety or depression or other mood disorders or substance use issues. So you may find yourself, you know, that is a little bit more enhanced. You may recognize that maybe you have an urge to use alcohol or other substances more than you normally would be. And that is a reaction to something that is foreign, something that is new to you. And there may be a lot of other reactions. You may find yourself distancing yourself from other people that you normally would be close to, because one of the things we're hearing is this is contagious, this is that if you breathe near other people, if you touch other people, if if you're very proximal to people. However, it's normal for us, because this is such new territory, to have a reaction that may stigmatize other people, because we may use words that may actually put some distance between us and other people. We may start talking about the diseases associating with a certain race or ethnicity or a country. And so I would want to encourage us as a community to be mindful of our word choices, because words actually matter. How we use words impact other people. So I would say, don't attach locations, ethnicities to the disease. Don't talk about people as being suspected cases, or, these are COVID-19 suspects. That is language that can actually put distance between us and people that we care about. And it's really important that we are mindful of not repeating or sharing rumors about the disease, avoiding using hyperbolic language that's designed to generate fear, like, the plague, or, just using words about there's a conspiracy around this. So let's be mindful about how we are interacting, because it actually heightens the anxiety between us, among us, and it actually isolates us from being able to cope with this from a mental health standpoint. So what I would encourage us to do as a community, as a family within the university, is to gravitate towards those things that ground us. One of the things I recommend as a mental health professional is to find the social influences within your community. Now, that may be somebody you look up to, and for people who are religious, you may find yourself maybe gravitating towards a rabbi, a pastor, a sheikh, somebody who gives you a sense of hope. Because when we gravitate towards just listening to all the negative things about this, then you find that anxiety building up. But when you gravitate towards the things that ground you, you'll find a sense of hope. You may find a sense of, I can make it through this. As a community, we are actually more resilient than we think most of the time. And this is actually a season when it's important to be mindful about being supportive of each other. If you're aware of somebody who's sick around you, or who is coughing, or who, is ill in one way or another, let's be mindful not to distance ourselves from these people. Instead, to provide them with support. If you need to refer them or direct them to somebody who may help them, to a medical professional, that's really important for us to do at this time. Some general coping skills that I could talk about is, especially if you're feeling like you're in a restricted space, because we have to be distant from each other, sometimes you have to be in an enclosed space, is to be mindful of taking breaks. Sometimes take a walk. I know most of our students are back home. Take a walk, take some deep breathing exercises. Those can be really, really helpful. Drink some water. Stay away from social media. I'm mindful that we are a society that's very tied to technology, our cell phones, and we want to know, so what's new? So who's saying it? I would say gravitate towards websites that are credible. Go to the CDC website. Go to our university website and look at the page that we have set up to address these issues, and you're more likely to find credible information. I would not recommend looking at blogs or just, news outlets that are just, the intention is to just stir people up, because that will just heighten your anxiety, and it leads to a sense of helplessness and hopelessness and anxiety, and that really heightens us to act in a way that's outside of our normal way of functioning. So I would say, talk to people you love, people who care about you, gravitate towards people who are supportive of you, take care of yourself. I would say take care of each other. Here at SU, we encourage a culture of care. And one of the things we want to do is let's check on each other. Find out how you're doing, especially if once you're home and, you have neighbors who they're probably elderly, or or just individuals who have some predisposed medical or mental health conditions. Check on them and see how people are doing, not just for yourself, but for other people. So coping is really vital. And finally, I want to say it's important to recognize when what you need is beyond the scope of what you have. If you've exhausted your coping mechanisms, you may find yourself getting really helpless. I would say it's important to reach out and get support and talk to somebody. As a counseling center, We are open, our phone lines are open. I would encourage you to call us. Our phone number is 410-543-6070. Now, we may not be able to see students continuously as we have done when the university is functioning in full capacity, but one of the things we are able to do, especially for those of us who are away from campus, is to connect you with providers. Our staff is ready to talk to you, to help you identify mental health providers in your local area so that you can continue receiving services. Perhaps you never came to the counseling center at all, but you're thinking, you know, the anxiety is really building up and I'm really helpless. I want to talk to somebody. Call us. It doesn't matter where in the country you are. We will do our level best to connect you with a provider in your area. I would also say utilize the services within your local area. You can always call hotlines within your local vicinity, and somebody will be able to connect you with a provider. Within the area, you can utilize the Life Crisis Center here at Salisbury. Their number is 410-749-4353, and they're available 24/7. They'll be able to connect you if you find yourself experiencing thoughts of suicide. And this may be really new for you. I would encourage you to call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can call them at 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K, which is also 1-800-273-8255, and they will be able to help you. They're available 24/7, or you can chat online at suicidepreventionlifeline.org/chat. We have a lot of all these crisis resources on our website. You can visit us. Currently, we are working on a process of making sure we can continue to provide services even when we are not available on campus, to find some telehealth services we can provide to the university. That is coming up. Check on our website and you'll be able to get that information whenever we have it available. Staff and faculty and even students, don't hesitate to call us if you don't know what to do when you recognize somebody around you is experiencing mental health issues. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Gatoski. I'm the Director of Housing and Residence Life. We certainly have gotten a number of questions, our offices, and emails, and I will do the best to cover in as completely as I can some of those questions. If you have any additional questions, call the housing office or send us an email, please. The residence halls do close today at 7 p.m. That is the traditional contracted residence halls. They are not the apartment 12 months. Those, Siegel Square, Global Village, and University Park will close Sunday at noon. We have extended that by a day because we are still working through the requests to remain here on campus. The university, we are working through a handful of, and working with some students who are housing insecure and are unable to return to their homes. We are also working with our international students. We anticipate that the number of students remaining on our campus will be fewer than 100. Once we establish this, at the end of the day, we'll be communicating with dining services and doing the best we can to provide for those students who remain on campus. As far as internet is concerned, we've also gotten a number of requests to remain on campus because of internet issues. At the national level, Comcast has stepped up to offer free internet service for lower income families for the next 60 days. As more people are forced to self-confine during COVID-19, and our students are remoting in to do their coursework. Students who are unable to secure technology needed for online courses should reach out to their professors or instructors as soon as possible to request additional assistance. One question was about University Park. University Park is actually also part of our housing. We are working closely with the University Park staff. We will communicate final decisions to those requests. If you live on main campus, you will receive an email from the housing office. If you live in University Park, you will receive that information and that decision from University Park. But we are working closely with University Park to make these decisions. The halls will remain closed until April 4th. UP as students are, and as our students on campus, you're encouraged to refrain from returning to the area until things change. We also have gotten a number of questions about refund. Certainly, there's a very natural question for refunds for housing and dining services. The presidents have been working with the System Board of Regents, the Chancellor, to develop a consistent strategy to address this question. We ask you to be patient. It is something that is very important. We want to do the best we can for all of our students in the state of Maryland who attend a Maryland State school. We want a consistent decision to be made for all of the 12 system schools. So we ask that you stay tuned. Keep an eye on your emails, consult the webpage for additional information as those decisions are made. One question was what would happen if we went past 2 weeks following spring break. The situation is being evaluated in real time and will continue through the 4th and beyond. We will follow the guidelines from the System of Maryland, Maryland Department of Health, the Governor's Office, and other health and government agencies in making this decision based on the prevalence of COVID-19 in Maryland and in the U.S. When will students be allowed back onto campus that's something we will be communicating very clearly with you. Students would like to, starting to ask when they can come back and get their belongings. Please, we will send you emails. We will put this on our website. We will work very closely with you. If you have additional questions, call our office for that. We do have some students that actually requested coming back next week to get some belongings. Call our office, and we would like to work with you because we have a very small staff now, and we have to provide you access to the buildings because we are turning off prox access to the buildings. You will not be able to access your residence hall without calling the office and making that arrangement with us. Like I said, watch your emails and refer to our website for additional information. It really is evolving and changing, even as we speak. Our final decisions for the requests, we are, as I said, working on those. We plan to have those out by the end of the day. And as I said, we will communicate to those that have contracted with Salisbury University, and University Park will be communicating with the students that live in University Park. And the deadline to be out of those apartment complexes has been extended to Sunday at noon. So if you are not approved to remain on campus, we ask that you vacate and head home by noon on Sunday. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Lentz. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I'm also the director of the Student Health Services. I've been asked to address some of the questions around health and public health measures that we've taken here on our campus. Probably the most questions had to do with symptoms and testing. Currently, it's difficult to get testing. We do have the ability to send testing to our state lab if a student meets very specific criteria. We also have the ability to send some testing to the private labs in the area, that being LabCorp and Quest. Again, we would do this on a case-by-case basis. We would encourage a student to first call ahead. We don't want you just coming into our office if you're ill, because we want to protect, first of all, the staff that work in the health center, as well as other students who may be there for a non-ill visit. So we've taken offline all the ability to make an appointment online, and you're going to please give us a call. We will, if we can't get back to you right away, we will return your call that day. We will have a small staff in our health center to address the needs of students. We recognize that students may also need refills of medications that they're currently on. So we are currently working through all those specifics. Like I said, as far as testing, if someone is under investigation for a test, where we've done a test, you would then be required to self-isolate until those test results come back. The state lab test takes a couple of days, and I'm not sure what the turnaround time with LabCorp will be, but it will not be immediate. It's not an immediate test like we have our strep test and our flu test in our office. Some of the questions had to do with would we require students to wear masks and gloves? We, of course, we would not give out those masks or gloves. It's not, everything I've heard from public health officials is that wearing a mask is not required for somebody unless you have symptoms and you're going into a healthcare facility, and that's also to protect other people and the staff that you're coming in contact with. Some of the other questions had to do with, would we require people to prove they didn't have coronavirus to return to campus? No, we would not do that. We're currently hoping that students will be able to return on April 4th, but as all the other presenters have said, things change day to day, hour to hour. I wanted to address all the extra cleaning that's been going on campus. We put in some extra hand sanitizer stations. We have been encouraging people to wash their hands, and I can't say that's enough. Wash your hands for 20 seconds. That's singing happy birthday twice. That's getting underneath your fingernails. That's getting the palms of your hands. That's then taking a paper towel and turning off the faucets, opening the door, throwing it away in a trash can. I've heard some great ideas of how to wash your hands. I think for me, it would be pretend you're eating Maryland crabs with all that spice, and then you're going to take out your contact lenses. It is more than just putting your hands under the faucet for a moment. So please, that is the one thing we can all do to protect ourselves and others. We've also, the SU's housekeeping staff has been instructed on enhanced cleaning protocols since February. They've been doing extra cleaning, wiping down handles, doorknobs. They also were able to buy some extra hospital-grade disinfectant fogging devices that they've been cleaning the Student Health Services office every night, the MAG's gym, and then they're going around to different offices to disinfect surfaces. And that's another thing that each of you can do, is to keep your area clean, as well as high-touch surfaces. Your phone is something you touch a lot, keeping that clean as well. One of the questions had to do with about how are we going to monitor sick kids that may be coming into Commons. First of all, the academic Commons will be open, limited hours. We want you to practice social distancing, which means 6 feet apart from another person who might be in there. If you are sick, please do not come to campus. Please do not come to work. I can't stress that enough. We need to protect each other, and that's one thing we can do to help the community from becoming infected. And then I wanted to also talk about the dining hall. We've taken off all the areas where you can self-serve food, and it's only being put on on your plate for you. And again, there's not going to be somebody that's going to ask you if you're sick going into Commons, and that's going to be limited to the few students that are here on campus. So again, I think we will get through this. I'm confident. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse a really long time. There's been other outbreaks that have probably been more scary, HIV for one, that we've, as a nation, have been able to come together and address. So we will get through this. We have a great staff and faculty here, and I'm going to let the president finish up with a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to express my appreciation to our 4 experts, Dr. Mark Frana, Dr. Lillian Odera, Dave Gutowski, and Vicki Lenz, for answering many of your questions. Thank you all for being here. It's clear from the answers to these and other questions that the university is entering a new mode of operation. Yesterday, Governor Hogan restricted access from all state buildings to the general public. But the university continues its operation, and I am grateful to the faculty and the staff who have banded together to have doubled down and found new ways to continue the mission of this university, to support our students, and to educate our students in a way that is protective of our community's health. So thank you for joining us. If you have additional questions, make sure to email them to the email address stayinformed@salisbury.edu. And to monitor the answers to those questions and to get additional information, please monitor updates on SU's website at salisbury.edu/coronavirus. Thank you for joining us.